Hello, everyone. I want to say thank you very much for joining us right here live in the studio. I want to really appreciate you for being there. We are getting started in the next few minutes, and I just want to encourage you to invite your friends, invite every African that you know all around the world because this is going to be really powerful. We are focusing on the future of Africa today. We are digging deep into the future of Africa. We want to really do a lot of conversation concerning the future of Africa, and this is what we are passionate about. So today, I'm going to be having this conversation with a very dear friend, Henry uh, Ukazu. And Henry is an expert in when it comes to international law. He's a prolific, writer. He's an international speaker. He's an author, and we're going to be having this conversation together today. So if you want to join us in the studio, we have shared a link. Just click that link, and we will definitely see you when you come in. Then we are going to allow you to jump in to share your own thoughts as well. So our focus today will be changing the narrative in leadership. We're going to be talking about different aspects of leadership today. So I want to really encourage you to share this video with everyone that you know, all your friends in Africa and the Africans in the diaspora, because we are going to be digging deep into some of the challenges that we are all aware of in Africa. Think about 54 countries in the continent of Africa. Africa is a great continent. The Africa continent has a great potential to be in charge of a lot of things in different areas in the world. And what are these potentials? Some of us we are aware of them, and many Africans are still ignorant of these potentials. So we are going to be talking about these potentials that we have in Africa. And I want you to encourage all Africans that you know all around the world to join this conversation. Most Africans don't know the potentials that we have in Africa. Many of us were aware of all these potentials, but we don't really know the value of these potentials. So today we are going to be digging deep into a lot of things when it comes to political leadership. Of course, 50 years after independence, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to leadership in Africa. So we're going to be talking about, political leadership. We're going to be talking about business leadership. We talk about the African intellectual elites. We're going to dig into that. There will be a conversation about that. Then we're also going to talk about the new generation of African leaders and the development requirements. So, do we have specific requirements when it comes to the new generation of leaders? If you look at different countries in Africa today, many people are advocating that the youth, of course, should come out and the youth should be in charge of politics in Africa. So we're going to be talking about this new generation of leadership and also the requirement of actually be in charge and then, being part of this system of transformation, system of development in African nations. We are also going to talk about the fragmentation of political areas. We're going to dig deep into that as well. And so these are the areas that we're going to really focus on today. So I want you to start inviting your friends, inviting your everyone that you know all around you before we get started. So we just let me just quickly use this time to invite my friend to join me, Henry Ukazu. Continue to invite your friends, and I will be right back. All right, I want to encourage everyone to start sharing this video with everyone. All Africans that you know all around the world, kindly share them. Um, my dear friend Henry Ukazu is going to be coming in a few minutes, and then we can get started. So kindly start sharing this video with everyone that you know all around the world. We're going to be digging deep into all aspects of leadership in Africa, and our focus will be changing the narrative in leadership in Africa. As we all know, many of us, we are aware of the challenges that we have already. Many of us, we are not aware of most of these challenges. But we are just, we just know it that Africa has great potentials. Okay, so we're going to be digging deep into some of this context, and then you will have the opportunity to also contribute into some of these conversations, some of these deep topics that we're going to be looking into. For example, the fragmentation of a historical conscience. We're going to talk about that, the fragmentations of political areas. We're going to talk about the fragmentation of knowledge. How much do you know about Africa? How much do you really know? How much do you think you know? Because most times we think we know some things, but we don't really know much about them. And if you don't know something, if you don't understand it, you cannot respond to the needs. So, how much do you know? These are the questions that we're going to be asking ourselves. So, it's going to be a very deep conversation today as we all come live here. And I want to really welcome my friend. So, I'm going to bring in my friend right now so that we can start this conversation. Okay, so kindly start sharing this video. How you doing,
Good.
Henry?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good.
Thank
I was hearing from the background. I was wondering how I'm going to come in. So I had to click enter. I've been there for like 5 minutes waiting for you to accept me.
oh, sorry about that. I think that might be network, and when I saw you coming, I'm like, yes, we have Henry in the studio. So thank you very much. Yes, so here we are, everyone, and we are right here. Mr. Henry, do you have something to get us started? And I've just been introducing what we are here to do today, and looking at different areas of leadership that we want to talk about today, like the political leadership in Africa. Of course, more than 50 years after independence, we're going to talk about the business leadership, the Africa intellectual elites. Then we're going to also talk about the new generation of African leaders and development requirements. Today we are talking about the young should step out and they should be in charge. So we're going to dig into that as well, and also have the conversation about that. Then the fragmentation of political areas, the historical conscience, the knowledge, and also ideas and implementation of new conditions of peace, progress, and the promotion of freedom in Africa. So let me just so today myself and my great friend here, we are going to be having this. We're going to be your hosts, okay? So all our listeners, we're going to be your hosts, and it's going to be a deep conversation. All right, so Mr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Wale, for having me here. I'm greatly honored to be here this afternoon. And I must say this is that I think this is a great time
Mm,
for us to discuss about Africa and leadership. I strongly believe that nobody will respect you unless you respect yourself.
hmm,
And that is one reason why I'm so passionate about this. For those of us who have traveled out of the country and then see what's applicable in senior clients, we can see what true leadership is all about. We can see what democracy is all about. We can see what development is all about. But one question we have to answer ourselves is, as Africa, are we going forward? Are we going backward? Why is
hmm,
the world moving forward and leaving Africa behind? I was just thinking about Africa and about a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking of why would President Trump regard Africa as a shithole country? Why will the blacks be relegated in this part of the world? So many questions bordering on my mind, and that is why I think it's high time we have to address this issue. And that is why I said nobody will respect you unless you respect yourself. Unless you respect yourself. So for Africa to really develop, I strongly believe that we have to put our house together. And it's all about leadership and responsibility. So I'm pretty much optimistic that we're going to have a very good day to discuss some of all these issues that has been limiting us from really having our say in the international community.
Hmm. Hmm. In fact, I really love the way you started that, and I love that statement you made. If we don't respect ourselves, how do we expect people to respect us? If we don't value ourselves, how do we expect people to value us? And all these things actually start from individuals. If I don't respect myself, I shouldn't expect people to respect me. So I think that's a very great, way to actually put it. I really love that. So here we go. That's what we're going to be digging into today. We're going to be talking about Africa, changing the narrative. And I was just trying to share that with some people as well that are ready to join. So, well, some of the things that I have in my heart, maybe I should just, say this as we start. I have some thoughts, in my heart. I've been thinking about a lot of things. I've met different Africans all around the world. I've met different, people with different contexts, different ideas, people talking about the problems, and they're not even providing any solutions. And many of us, we know a lot of information. In fact, we have a lot of information. We know what to do. In fact, if if we give 100 Africans leadership questions today, I'm very sure that 99% will score 100% when it comes to theoretical things in leadership.
That's interesting.
Yes, they will dissect everything. This is what the president should do. This is what the governors should do. And we all have these ideas coming up in our head, but we are not doing anything about it. And one of my favorite quotes says that if you are not part of the solution, that means you must be part of the problem. So this is one of the things that we're going to be digging deep into today. Like, for example, the question of leadership was first faced by the African continent in the 1990s. That was when the question of leadership started during the start of democratization of African states and the societies. So when different countries started accepting democracy as a concept, as a system, and everyone started talking about, okay, so what are we going to do? We need quality leaders to lead us. Now we are independent. Who is going to lead us into freedom? Who is going to lead us into the right decisions? Then how can we start making things happening without depending on our colonizers and things like that? So many questions started in 1990s, and all these problems, all converged together because for me, I mean, according to history, we need to think about our past, the present, and the future. And 1960 is often referred to as the year of Africa. So we're going to be looking into this as well today, talking about Africa. So if you want to join us, we have a link. We have a link right there. You can see the link in our message box right there as we start this conversation. So I'm going to be, talking about some things. My friend is going to be talking about some concept and some issues, and then some of the solutions that we can come up with. And if you want to join the conversation, just click the link. We have the link right there. Click that link. You can join us in the studio if you have something to contribute, and we'll just bring you in and hear your own thought as well.
That is great. That is great. Mr. Wale, I think in order for us to solve a problem, first of all, we need to understand the issues. We have to understand the problems before you can provide solutions. And I would appreciate if we can look into what are those things, the problems, the challenges that Africa has faced. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a research on the greatest African leaders. I was looking at Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela, was looking at Nnamdi Azikiwe of Nigeria. There are a great number of people who have made Africa proud. And then when I look back in retrospect, I was like, what has happened today? that we have people who have been in power for the past 30 years in Africa, 20 years, 30 years. What has changed? Why? I can remember vividly when my late dad, he said the 80s, in the early 80s, that the naira, which is the currency rate for Nigeria, was double of what we have in the US. I think one naira was equivalent to like $2 in the early 80s and 70s. I guess that was when we have the oil boom. And then when you ask yourself now, what is the exchange rate right now? I think now it's like almost $400, if not more. So a lot has changed. A lot has changed. And what led to this? These are some of the things that we need to ask ourselves. A lot of us who are in diaspora today left the shores of Africa just because we want opportunity. We believe that we have greener pastures in US, in Canada, in European countries. But what has happened to Africa? If we do your research, you will discover that Africa is the second largest grain continent in the world. We have many resources, especially on agriculture. If we can tap into the agricultural side of Africa, I think the whole world will never starve because we have so many potentials in Africa, so many resources, both human and natural resources, but then we don't use what we have. So I think that is a route we need to really see how we can really change this narrative, and then see those who have been able to do great jobs in Africa. People like Nanakudo right now of Ghana. He's doing a good job. He's one of my friends. And then I think Paul Kagame of Rwanda. I think he's also doing a good job now. So we have good leaders in Africa right now, but then a lot needs to be done. We don't want people like Paul Biya any longer for a while. It's so crazy. So these are the things we need to really discuss and see how the younger generation can step in. As opposed to be in diaspora and then just giving all these good speeches, but then lacking substance on how they can really affect change. So these are so many questions that we need to really answer ourselves. Otherwise, we might be in perpetual slavery in foreign land, and our country might be languishing, and then it's going to be politics all the day. So it's not a good thing for Africa at this moment.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. And in fact, when you mention that, the issue, and one of the issues that we have right now in Africa on having presidents staying in position for 15, 20, 30 years. I mean, because we love power. Africans love power. And one of the things is this. We have to take this conversation in a way, in a way of we accepting all these faults. We are not here to transfer the blames to people, because when we're talking about Africa, we're talking about ourselves. We are all part of Africa. We are all part of this system. So there is no one that will come to Africa to transform Africa for us. We are the one to transform our continent by ourselves. China is now investing in Africa rapidly. Rapidly, they are investing in Africa because they know the potential that we have in the continent. People outside are seeing the potential, and we that we are within, we are not even seeing the strength. Well, many of us, we know the strength, but we are not doing something about it to transform things. For me, I still have another group of people, which of course I have in three groups. The first group, they don't even have the idea of the potential. The second group, they know the potential, they have the idea, but they just like to complain about it. And we are not here to only talk about it, but to also provide solutions. What can we do today to start transforming things? The third group that I know, these are the groups that they know the problem, they know the solution, but they have decided not to do anything about the solution at all. They are people who are selfish and they just want everything in their own system, everything in their own family. And that's why some political leaders, they've turned power into family business. So I'm not going to be I'm not going to be mentioning different countries. We all know this we know different African countries today. I mean, For example, I talk to different people, from Algeria, from Burundi, from Cameroon, from Chad, from Congo, many countries where from Equatorial Guinea,
Wow.
Morocco, South Sudan, Sudan, Togo, Uganda. I mean, the president in Uganda has been there since 1986.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy.
some people were not born. Equatorial Guinea since
Yeah, yes, it's true.
1979. Equatorial Guinea since 1979.
That's messed up.
So,
Or what
some
about
people were not even born.
yes, that's true.
Cameroon since 1982. Chad since 1990. I mean, a child that was born in 1982.
That's messed up. So that's Bobby. I think Bobby, I don't know if he's the longest serving African president. No, I think the guy from Equatorial Guinea, Obiang,
Mm,
he's been there
yes.
since 79.
Yes, 1979. Yes, that's
Theodoro Obiang.
Obiang. Yes.
Yeah, Theodoro
So,
Obiang.
so is it that the country, Equatorial Guinea, doesn't have anyone again that can do something different in that country? Why have we? I mean, what is wrong with us? What is our problem? What is wrong with us? So these are the things that we're going to be exploring. We're going to be talking about the leadership. I mean, we all know all these problems, and I just want us to explore all these problems. Let's think about them. Then we will not start thinking about what the solution. For example, we are talking about Togo, Equatorial Guinea, and Uganda, Cameroon, and all that. Okay, let's bring it to Nigeria. Let me use Nigeria as a case study, because we are looking at some of the problems. One of the problems I identified, for example, there is a community called Olobiri community in a Bayelsa state. That's in a local government in Bayelsa state.
That's where oil was discovered.
That was where oil was discovered. Do you know that people living in that community are living in poverty?
Abject poverty.
Abject poverty. People living where the wealth of the nation was discovered. They are living in abject poverty. They are drinking water. They are drinking river water. You see, in fact, if you see some of the schools, I was shocked. Recently, I was watching that on Channels TV. I was shocked looking at the schools. They are like I don't know what to even compare them with. I thought animals should be living in that kind of environment where the wealth of the nation was discovered. So when we are talking, I love one of the quotes said by Dr. Johnson Maxwell. He said, "Everything rises and falls on leadership." And I thought about it. Everything? Yes, everything. I mean, yes, everything. So
True. I definitely agree with you. Leadership is everything, and that has been one of the greatest problem Africa as a continent has been experiencing. It's all about responsibility. There's a quote by I've gotten this great man, I'm trying to remember his name. He said, if your actions inspire others to move on, do on, then you're a leader. I'm trying to remember his name. Okay, so the point I'm just trying to really emphasize is that it's all about leadership. Whoever is on top has a greater role to play in changing the narrative.
John Adams.
Yeah, John Adams. Yes, he made a quote. Yes. Okay. So he said, if your actions inspire others to do more, you're a leader. Okay. So for me personally, I look at it that one man cannot change a nation. However, there's an exception to that rule. One man can still change a nation. Because they say a tree cannot be the forest. But when we look at the case study of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, how did he do it? This is a man that was in prison for 27 years. When he came out of the prison, the first thing he did after he won the election was to reconcile the country. Okay, he fought against apartheid policy in South Africa. He was able to unite the country. But what has endeared him so much among all Africans is the fact that he was able to forgive his detractors,
Hmm.
those people who put him in prison. And then we can see the legacy he stood for: education, good governance, empowerment. This is what he stood for. And I think this is what Africans need to imbibe. He is one of those exceptions. You can imagine a man, I think the first African to be laid in a White House when he passed on. That tells you that the whole world is watching.
Yeah.
But today, the issue is different. So I think the best way to really go about this is by accepting responsibility for our actions. No one can save Africans except Africans themselves. And that is why I like what the president of South Africa said one time, that Africa must solve Africa's problem. We don't expect the whites, the Westerners, to come and solve our problems. We are the one that will solve our problem because we know ourselves.
Yeah.
We know our problems. Nobody knows you more than you know yourself. A couple of weeks ago, I was discussing with one of my friend, and do you know what he said? He said Africans don't have history. The only history Africans have is the one the white men have written for us. And I
Hmm.
imagine, how will the
Hmm.
white man write our history for us? Why? Why can't we write our history ourselves and tell our stories ourselves? Because if you don't speak about yourself, nobody will speak about you. If people are speaking about you, they are speaking about you based on their own vantage point, based on
Yeah.
their own
Interest.
perspective. That's what it
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
So in that same light, we don't expect the Western world to solve our problem. It's just like a case study of the loan we receive from European countries, from IMF. I don't really like that idea of getting loan. And that is where I like again the current president of Ghana, Nanado. One time I was watching him on YouTube when he was speaking to the French president about loan. He said that we don't want loan from the Western world, that we can do it ourselves, because that loan is like a trap to make you to be a slave. So let me not deviate from that point. The point I'm trying to say is that Africans are the one that will solve Africans' problem and not the Western world. And the great way for us to solve that problem is to identify the problem, because identification of a problem is 50% solved. If you have been able to identify the cause of a problem, it will be good for you to really address it. And a good way of identifying that problem is by taking responsibility. When I mean responsibility, looking at the issues in Africa: poverty, poor education, poor health facilities, insecurity, violence, lack of infrastructure facilities. These are some of the problems bedriving Africa as a continent. If we have been able to, if we can really do this, I believe that we will have our name in the global community, because this is what it is. We have agriculture, but we're not tapping into those values of agriculture we have. We have human and natural resources, but we're not tapping into those opportunities we have. We allow the Western world to tap into them. In fact, like let's take a case of Nigeria. Do you know Nigeria has oil? We can't even refine our oil. We have to allow the white man, we export this oil. The white man come to Nigeria, take this oil to their country, refine it, and then sell it back to us at
Send it back
exorbitant
to us.
prices. You can
Hmm.
imagine. That makes no sense. Why can't we now refine this oil ourselves? Again, that comes to leadership,
That makes
because
sense.
it's all about politics. Some people who have the power to make this change have refused to do it because of vested interest. They know they're going to gain when this oil is exported back and then bring back to the country. That's why I'm saying the problem lies from leadership. If the leader on top has decided and has the willpower to make it happen, definitely the change will be coming. So that's what I think that we can. That's one of the great ways for us to really solve some of these challenges really happening in Africa. And then for those of us who are in diaspora, especially the young generations who are coming up, they have a role to play back in nation building.
Mhm.
They have a big role to play. I don't really believe in apportioning blame. I believe in fixing the problem because talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. In my own little way, I have been trying to empower the younger ones on how they can think out of the box, on how they can contribute to nation building. Because if we don't solve this problem, our children again will be part of it. And then the story continues. So the earlier we stand up to address some of these issues, the earlier Africa will rise and have its place or have a place in the global community. So the question we have to ask ourselves now is, how do we solve these problems?
Hmm.
How do we solve these problems? We have identified some of these issues right now, but then how do we go about to solve this problem? What are the concrete measures? What are the rubrics that we can use to assess these problems? And how can we put in infrastructures in place to make sure that our current leaders are able to imbibe these developmental projects that has been applicable in Senate lines? That's a very good question we have to really ask ourselves.
Hmm. I really if I completely agree with you because you know uh you said some powerful stuff that I'm personally thinking about right now. I always say something that we don't need politicians in leadership positions in Africa. To transform nations in Africa, we need leaders in politics. We need more leaders in politics because being a politician does not mean you are a leader. Most times we use the word our leader, our leader. Most times I try to not use those words because when we look at the definition of leadership and we check the definition with most of the people who are in positions, we realize that they cannot represent the definition of leadership.
That's true.
Uh, they cannot. So using the word our leaders most times, I feel somehow when I want to say our leaders, when I want to say leaders, because, uh, for example, let me give you one of the differences between politics and politicians and leaders. For all our viewers, and if someone has other thoughts about this, I want you to just click that link. We have a link in the comment box. Just click the link, then we can allow you to come in. And when you come in, basically, we want to hear your own comments and your own contributions so that we can have you in live. Okay. So basically, one of them, politicians, they focus on the next election.
True.
Leaders focus on the next generation.
That's true.
When you listen to a leader talks about the generation, thinks about other people. But when you listen to politicians, listen to two or three speeches, you will be talking about themselves, their election, their party. Recently I was listening to one of the governors, governor, I think Governor Wike, on channels news, no, on YouTube rather, and he was passionately talking about the governors forum, how the governors forum now looks like. That the governors forum is not even it's not the place where governors converged to talk about the transformation and how to change different states.
Right.
Now they just talk about a party. They talk about the political party, just one
Wow.
party. He said that's all. And if you are not interested, then you are going to be in trouble. So they don't have anything substantial to talk about. Even in the governors forum, we are talking about the leadership. These are the people who are in charge of the nation. So, one of the things you actually said that I love so much about, the quotes. If someone can inspire people to do something that they thought they couldn't do, the person is a leader. And that's basically what it is. And for me, I feel like those are the things that we need to start thinking about. We need to start thinking about, we need to have a rethink, a paradigm shift about what we call leadership. Okay, for example, now, I think when we think through this problem, let's also think through the solution. What can we do today? to transform nations in Africa. Okay, we're talking about the weaknesses of political parties. We're talking about the manipulation of electoral process. We're talking about a controlled press, because most of the presses, media houses, they are controlled. So there are things they can't say. If you say them, you'll be in jail. That is not government. That is not progressive. That is not democracy. That is not freedom.
I agree with
you
you.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, privatized violence and politicized armies. Even the army, they are politicized. The army that's supposed to protect the nation is
Right.
against the nation. So I mean, we also have international support for dictatorship. We're talking about AIDS. Different countries coming to receive aid. In fact, United States recently just made an announcement that they will stop the aid that they are giving to Nigeria. Different countries, China is giving aid to different countries in Africa so that they can be part of the decisions that the government is making. That is colonization in the 21st century. So we need to start thinking. We need to start thinking about all these problems. What is wrong with us, Mr. Henry?
Wow.
We need
Okay. For me, I think the first step to addressing some of these problems, these challenges, is education.
great.
Yeah, and if you can remember when I first started, I was looking back at the historical parts of Africa, and when I was doing my meditation, I was thinking of these great leaders who have done it in the past. How did they do it? People like Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. He was highly educated. He was able to inform his people. People like Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. I think he was the prime minister of Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
People like Patrick Lumumba. Okay, he was, I think, from Congo. Okay, how did he do it? People like Kofi Annan from Ghana. How did he do it? People like Nana Azikiwe. How did they do it? These guys were educated. Once you are educated, it kind of broadens your mind. And let me come a little bit from the spiritual perspective. For those of them who are Christians, I'm a strong believer of Christian. The Bible makes us understand that my people perish because they lack knowledge. A lot of people causing most of this havoc in the system right now. Some of them are half educated. And once you are half educated, it is worse than being an illiterate in a way, because it is senseless. So people see the truth, but then they now change it in a little way to suit them. You don't see the full picture. Just like Amanda wrote in her book, The Danger of in one of our TED show, The Danger of a Single Story. You are seeing it from one angle without seeing the full picture. So I think the first step that Africans need to do, or what they need to do if they are serious about changing this narrative, is by educating the people rightly. Let's take a case of the electionary campaign. During time of electionary campaign, you see most people coming out 6 months, 3 months just to run for election. But you forget to understand that election is a process. You have to plan ahead of time. Bring out your time at least 4 years to start campaigning and sensitizing the people. It is very, very important. A lot of people don't know the value of what I'm saying, because they don't think it's all about, I have the money, I'm going to come out. No, you must be able to sensitize people. There is this opposition leader in South Africa that I like so much. I'm trying to remember his name. This man has been over and over and over. I don't know the word to qualify him. But the point there is that he has been speaking out. He has been speaking out truth to power. He has been educating the people about the ills in government. Now, when people hear him speak, they tend to relate with him. So education is a great way for people to really change the society. Now, if you don't have education, okay, you can still change, because I believe that leaders are made. Even though some people can say that leaders are born, leaders are made. Okay, But at the same time, again, you can say leaders are born. It's not a must you go to school before you can change the society. If you have the traits of leadership, you can do. Everybody can lead. Leaders, and I strongly believe that nations are not ruled by saints, but rather they are ruled by performance. So if you're a leader, I strongly believe that a leader is anybody who can inspire people and make a difference. Now, let me give a case study of Nigeria. When there's this governor there in Nigeria, military ruler in Nigeria, he was in charge of Lagos states. I'm trying to remember his name. He was a military ruler. He was able to transform Lagos states to an enviable heights. Okay, I've tried to remember this man. That was in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, in the 90s or early 2000. He was able to challenge. No, that was in the 90s. Yes, in the 90s, because we had our first civilian, I think, in 1939. But prior to that, this man was in power. I'm trying to remember his name. Not Murtala Mohammed. Murtala Mohammed did a good job when he was the military ruler for the country. But then the point I'm trying to emphasize is, if you have people who are leaders, who are true leaders, whether you're a military or you're a civilian, who have the mindset to rule, you can make impact. We've seen people today who are so-called leaders in Nigeria and even in Africa. They are Democrats. We are under civilian regime, but you can regard them as dictators in a way, because they don't obey the court rules. They don't provide the needful things people need to really need to survive. But when we had people in military in power, sometimes you see these dividends of democracy coming in. The only thing that is negative about them is that they have this way of dictatorship of leadership. So that is not a good ideal for African when it comes to military rulers. But the point I'm trying to really emphasize is, leaders, nations are not ruled or governed by saints. Rather, they are governed by performance. Once you're able to perform, that is when you know that you have that great trait. So leadership is the first step, and I think that is the peak of it all. If we can have true leadership, every other thing will follow suit. For example, you mentioned about the electoral process. If you have a true leader that truly believes in democracy, you will make sure the right people are not only in place, but then you will make sure that the right things are being done. One of the problems why Africa is today is backward is because of electoral malpractices. You will see a president that has been in power for donkey years, and each year he's always there again. And when the election is being done, it's being rigged in his favor. What does that tell you? Poor leadership. So once we have the right leader in place who has the interest of his people, he or she will not be interested in vested politics or vested interests. He or she will be interested in what will be of the best interest to my people. I call it the best judgment rule. What will be of the general interest to the masses, to the citizens? How will I be remembered? If you have a good leadership, you will make sure that you value the lives and property of your citizens, because security of your citizens is the first paramount importance of a leader. Security of life and properties. Now, a leader who has the interest of people, we see how he reacts when there's a pandemic. Let's take a case study of US. You agree with me that whenever there's a pandemic or global pandemic or even a war or someone passes on, you will see how the leaders in America react. But in Africa, there will be war, there will be pandemic, there will be mass slaughter, there will be killings all over the place, and then the leaders will do little or nothing. That tells you something. They don't care about their citizens. So it's all about leadership. A case study of education again. Once we have a leader who is properly educated, he or she would like to add value to the lives of people because education is what can change the narrative. With education, with the right education, people eyes will be open. There will be change. There will be infrastructure facilities. There will not be hunger. Because with education, you will know the right agricultural policy to bring in place to change the welfare system of the people. So it's all about leadership. It starts from the top.
Yeah.
It starts from the top. When you have a good leader, you won't agree with me that poverty will be a thing of the past. Because when people are hungry, they tend to misbehave. First of
Yes.
all, they have to eat. Once they eat, they'll be able to understand that truly this is not the right way. So hunger has been one of the greatest factor that has been hindering the progress of Africa. Because when people are not properly fed, you agree with me that the body system becomes weak. We don't have good health facilities in Nigeria, in Africa. Very few countries have good health facilities in Africa. So what do you expect? High rate of mortality rates. People die. So these are the issues that we need to ask ourselves. Where did we lose it? How can we change it? We can change it by having the right people. But let's not deviate again from the main issue at stake. We need to speak to ourselves
Yeah.
and say, yes, we're talking about the right leadership. On our own part, are we a good follower? Are we doing the needful? Let me go back to what you mentioned about election, the electoral process. You will agree with me that in Nigeria, for example, and even some African countries that are so poor, when it's time for election, the politicians know how to play the game. They will go with their money bags, food items, to give peanuts to these citizens so that they can campaign for them. And then these hungry citizens again, some of them believe that this is the only time I can get from these guys. If I lose out, I'm gone.
Let me get it now.
That they are selling their birthrights.
Hmm.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So it's all about the leader again doing the right thing. Okay. Once the leader knows that he or she is not doing the right thing by giving money, giving food, allowing their policies to rule, that's a good way to start. Because they know that these people are hungry. So they put them in abject poverty because they know the language of these people. But a true leader with the genuine interest of the people at heart will empower the leaders, will empower her citizens with the right education, with the right infrastructure facilities, with the right policies. They can really empower these people. And when people are fully empowered, they will have what I call a sound judgmental discretion to speak on the issues really affecting them. But because most of these African leaders know that people are suffering, they are hungry, they continue to put them in this very, very predicate situation. People are helpless. What else do they
Yeah.
want? Somebody who is down can hardly stand up again. It takes a grace. So I think the first step is leadership, taking responsibility of the actions.
Hmm. Hmm. I like, in fact, I like that. I like where you ended. Leadership, taking responsibilities, for our actions. Now, that was according to Stephen Harcovey. I love the way he defined leadership. He said leadership basically is very simple: response plus ability. And he said his response, everyone has the ability to respond to something and to change the narrative of every situation. And he said, okay, the basic thing is for us to respond to something that we can do something about. And I love the way Theodore Esbor, the way he put it. He
Right.
said the essence of leadership is that leadership should have vision. You can't blow an uncertain trumpet. Now, this is it. Most African political leaders, they are blowing uncertain trumpets. They don't even know where they are going. the most important thing that separates a leader from a follower is vision. So it's the leader needs to know exactly where are we going. So if we should ask most of the presidents in Africa today, most of the governors in Africa today, they don't even know where we are going. Where are we going? Where are you leading us to? If you ask them those questions, they will be talking about infrastructural development. We want to build this road. We want to give you water. We want to give you electricity. All those things, they are mandatory. They are necessities. No one in any nation should be begging for those things. Those are the things that they use to campaign. They use water to campaign. They use electricity to campaign. They use road to campaign. Those are basic needs that should be provided for citizens. That should not be the things that they should be using to campaign. How many people do we see in the United States, the United Kingdom, in the Canada that are using roads to campaign, that are using electricity to campaign? They are basic needs that must be provided. But because of the lack of knowledge, coming back to knowledge, most Africans they are not aware of this, that these are basic needs. They shouldn't be begging for this. And that's why we, as every follower in Nigeria, in Africa, in Ghana, in South Africa, in every nation in Africa, should understand that everyone needs to understand that it is my responsibilities to lead myself. So how can you lead yourself? Be responsible. And it starts from families, because the president comes from a family, the governor comes from a family, the chairman comes from a family, the councillor comes from a family. Everyone, all of them, they all came from families. Now, this is the question. If the president does not have a family vision, how do we expect the president to create a national vision?
It's impossible.
It's not going to happen. So it needs to be first personal before it becomes public. It starts from the person. And that's why I tell people, before you vote someone into leadership or appoint someone into leadership, this is one of our own responsibilities. We need to check some qualities in the life of those individuals. Where are you taking us to? What is your conviction? Like what you said, the example you gave on different people that change African nations. Let's use Nelson Mandela. He was a professional lawyer, educated. So this guy he was not just a nuisance that just came out from somewhere. He was a professional lawyer. So when and one of the things that took him to the prison was conviction. How many people do we have in Africa today that are living with conviction? Well, for me, I call it 2 C's: conviction or convenience. Most people, they are living with convenience. They just want to enjoy. And that's why they love power. You know, politicians focus on power, leaders focus on empowerment. So, like you said, I think it's important for us to focus on the knowledge part. Knowledge is very, very key. And when people understand things, when they are aware of where we are going, it's going to be very easy for us to enlighten ourselves and to develop that conviction. Most people don't have conviction. And those who are coming out with conviction, I mean, I've seen many young generations. I am so passionate about leadership. It makes me cry when I see people living below their true potentials. That's my own cause. That is my own conviction. That's my own mission. That's what I live for every day. So if I'm doing my part, Henry is doing his part, everyone, we are all doing our parts. A point will come when things will just change completely. But if everybody is saying, well, that's their own problem, and we don't even care, it's just me and my family. Oh, okay. And when these people who are hungry now start knocking your door at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and they're now asking you to bring all the money that you have and destroy everything that you have built for years, then you will now be blaming the leaders when you have been silent for years. So it is our responsibility. We need to take responsibility and do something about what we can do. We are saying political leaders are corrupt. Those who are complaining, are they not corrupt? Are you not collecting bribe in your own office? So we need to start from there. in the ministries, for example, as a case study, the ministries in Nigeria. So when you go to different desks, are you not receiving, envelopes? That's where we need to start from. We need to check ourselves. So we should stop blaming people at the top because they came out of us. They didn't just fall from heaven. They came out of us. They are used to the system. They know how things work in the system. So when they got there, they are also following the same path. So, and everybody's complaining. So we need to start transforming ourselves as individuals, as communities, as families. And that brings us back to reorientation. Reorientation. Very, very key. We need to reorientate ourselves, just like what we are doing right now, enlightening ourselves. And until we have people who can step out with conviction. For example, let's look at Dubai. Every American that I meet, when I talk to Americans about Dubai, they will be like, "Oh, I want to visit Dubai." Can you imagine? Americans are dreaming to visit Dubai. They are dreaming to visit Dubai. It's one of the places they want to visit in the world. Dubai, in fact, probably number one. And 30 years ago, the country was not like that. A leader came up. That's why we say we need leadership. Leadership is key. As followers are following the right way, then someone needs to be at the top that will paint the picture and inspire people into action and create the enabling environment for growth. So who is that person? That's why leadership is key. So someone came on board and said, we have to transform this nation, created an enabling environment, and everyone around the world, they were interested in going back to the country to build the nation. That's exactly what Africa needs. We need leadership. Everything is leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. That's why I like the way there was a quote about the relationship between politics and government. Yes, that I think good governance and good politics can go together. I've forgotten the guy that actually said the quote. They can go together. Good governance and good politics. They can go together. They are always hand in hand. And everything is all about leadership. So it is time for Africa to rise again. It is time for us to rise again. It is time for us to do something about these issues. And I love what you said about what you are doing in your own area to support people. For me, that's what I do every day. Right now, we already have a team in Nigeria right now that is working on starting a leadership club in universities. We want to start it in universities. We want to start the club. It's basically 100% leadership. Okay, if the school doesn't have the curriculum, then let's start a club. Let's start helping people to understand who they are and develop them into leadership. We are not mixing anything with fun. That's no fun. This club is basically leadership. If you want to become a leader, come to this club. We don't have fun here. We don't go and play basketball here. This is not the place for basketball. If you want to play basketball, join basketball team. But here is leadership. That's our focus. So that's the priority, and that's one of the areas where we have been thinking of contributing and see how we can, help people from the grassroots, from families, from organizations. Even most parents don't understand what leadership is. They are not even leading their families. So how do we expect them to lead, their communities? So we have a lot of big problems. We have big problems, In fact, let me put it this way. We have small minds, and we need to help people to upgrade to become big minds, because small minds create big problems and big minds create small problems. So we need more big minds in Africa. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, I think you've said it all. It's all about leadership. And one point that really struck my mind when you were talking about leadership, you mentioned about people who are supposed to do the needful, and then people are clapping for them. Let me give it a case study of I was reading an article in Nigeria a couple of weeks ago that the governor feels that paying of salaries is an achievement. But that shouldn't be the case. That shouldn't be the case. That is your duty. That is your responsibility. And then there was a cartoon that tried to depict that it's it says like applauding yourself because you are paying salary is like it's similar to coming for the ATM for giving your money. It's so funny, but that's the reality of the day. A great point again you mentioned again is reorientation.
Mm.
It's very, very important because once these guys, these politicians, because they're not leaders, once they've been able to tap into the brains of the helpless citizens, then we know that these guys are really hungry. And then they've made them to understand and customize their mindset to understand that, look, I'm doing you a favor. Look, by paying your federal salary, so your brother can pay you. And then people start clapping for them, oh, you owe him salary. That makes no sense. So the citizens need to be empowered mentally. And that is why I applaud you and what you do in Nigeria right now when it comes to the clubs and different universities. People need to understand what is actual leadership. Actual leadership is all about taking responsibility, owning the problem. This is the issue. How can I address it? You don't run away from responsibility. So if the citizens are properly sensitized, if they are properly reorientated, they will know their rights. They will know that this is an entitlement. They will know that this is their benefits. They will know this is what they deserve. But if they don't have it, they don't know better. They will just go with what the society is saying. And who knows, they might go into the wrong hands. Let me share a story with you what happened to me when I was in Nigeria many years ago.
Good.
This was in the early 2000s. Yes, 2000 precisely. I was still looking for admission then. And I met my fellow, millennials, and can you imagine what someone told me? A young man still looking for his admission. He says, our current leaders don't know how to loot. Let them wait. When we are done with schooling, we will show them the modern way of looting. And I look at this young man. And I was asking myself, really?
Hmm.
If the leaders of tomorrow can be saying this, then what hopes do we have for the future? So people need to be sensitized. A lot of work needs to be done. And again, I'll go back to applauding you again in what you are doing, those your values when it comes to the clubs you're having in different campuses right now in Nigeria. People don't know better. They don't understand. So you have to bear with them because they don't know better. So it depends on people who have been there before, people who are giving them that right training, right information, and the right resources to really change their mindsets, to really change their IQ, to see what is obtainable in certain clients.
Hmm.
And again, that is where it all comes down to. Because when you now have good followers will now be able to hold their leaders accountable when their leaders start to derail. When leaders have seen that these people are no longer the people they used to know, they will sit up.
Yeah.
So it goes two way. The leader on top doing it for the people. That I know you don't know better, I'm showing you way, like John Adams says. Okay? Now, on the other part again, the followers of their part sensitize themselves, reorient themselves, and getting that knowledge they need. They will not hold that leader accountable out there. So if the leader fails to do it, because Wale has been able to empower these young minds with the right information, with the right tools, with the right resources, and the right knowledge, they will not be able to make a difference. Well, for me, I strongly believe information is power.
Yeah.
If you're not informed, you are ill-informed. And once you're ill-informed, you can't perform because information leads to reformation and transformation. In
Hmm.
fact, information leads to formation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Information
Mm-hmm.
leads to formation.
Yeah.
You cannot know what you can't know. Some things are way higher than you. But once you are properly educated, once you are informed, once you are enlightened, it will be hard for someone to take you for a ride. So our
Yeah.
people needs to have this right tools and right information. So it's all
Wow.
about
Wow.
information,
Wow.
training,
Wow.
and leadership.
Hmm. Hmm. I really love that. I love that context. That made me to remember what John C. Maxwell said, that a leader is someone who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. So I'm like, okay, okay, okay. So I try to, like, compare that is concept about leadership with
Right.
most of the political leaders, leaders that we have in Africa. I try to put them side by side. Okay, a leader knows the way. That's vision. Vision. Now, how many political leaders actually have vision? When they are campaigning, they talk about, I want to build roads, I want to give you light, I want to give you water. Those are necessities. They are not. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be promising these things. And that's one of the things that politicians do. They give promises. That's all they do. They just keep giving promises. They keep promising, because another thing that I've seen in that quote, a leader knows the way. Many political leaders don't even know the way. So when you don't even know where you are going, you don't know the future of the nation, you don't understand the purpose of the nation and the vision where the nation is going, how are you going to tell people, let's go? You can't tell them, let's go. You can't show any way. And you cannot
That's
tell
true.
them, let's go, because you don't even know where you are going. So you don't have your own personal purpose. And that's why I'm writing the book. I'm going to release the book very soon about the 7 levels to leadership. And I'm dedicating this book to African continent. So 7 of them, I put them together. I've studied, for example, like Nelson Mandela. I've studied all these powerful people that we can't forget their names in Africa. All these powerful individuals in South Africa, in Ghana, in the Cote d'Ivoire, in Equatorial Guinea, all these people. I've studied them, including United States. For example, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Himself, he was educated, and this guy had conviction. That is one of the key things that we need to check in the lives of these people. Most of them don't have conviction. They are not going into those positions because of conviction. They are going there because of convenience. So we need to check their lives. Most of them, they don't understand their own personal purpose. So how do we expect them to have national purpose? They don't know national purpose.
That's
Most political leaders in Nigeria today, they don't know the purpose of Nigeria. If you ask them, they don't know the history of Nigeria. They don't know the purpose. Why Nigeria? Most of them don't know. They don't know. So because they don't even understand what purpose is, how will they understand national purpose? They don't understand Nigeria mission. Most of them don't understand Nigeria vision. Where is the vision? Where are we going? For example, let's think about our data. Some people will say Nigeria is 180 million. We're about 200 million. Some people will say we are over 200 million. We don't even know our number. So,
very sad.
there are a lot of issues going on because there is no one to point at the future. When you don't know the data, how do you want to plan for the future? So these are the things that we are actually, these are the issues. How can we do it? We need vision. We need mission. We need someone who can inspire people into action. Africa needs leaders who can actually paint the picture. Passionate leaders. Passionate leaders. These are the people that Africa needs for Africa to be to transform. So we need all this. We need this in every family. We need this in communities. We need this in schools. We need this in organizations. We need this in institutions. Institutions. Any nation that does not invest in the institutions of the nation, in our own institution, the nation is doomed. The nation is doomed. I mean, it's so ridiculous when I think about all these things. And that's why I really appreciate what you are doing. We are doing our own parts in contributing in building people from the grassroots. And this is exactly what we want everyone that is watching us live to be doing. Do your parts. Let's stop complaining. Let's start doing something. Let's start doing something. Let's start doing something. That's what leaders do. Leaders take action. They just do it. They just keep doing it. Even without looking for credit. Most of us, we want people to see what we do before we do it. We're trying to look for credit. Someone to say thank you for doing it. No, that's not what leaders do. Leaders don't look for credit. Nobody told Nelson Mandela to go to prison. That when you are back, we'll tell you thank you. No, he went there because of his conviction. That took him to the prison by himself. That's exactly what we are talking about. So we need to sacrifice something. Somebody came to me and said, Wale, can you please support me? I'm starting a business and I want you to support me to start my business. Now, let's look at the case study. This is what happens in nations. And when he came to me and said, can you please support me? And I said, okay, what are you doing by yourself to start this business? And he said, I don't really have any money. And when we continue the conversation, this guy goes out to eat out every Saturday, every Friday. And if you calculate the money he spent at the restaurant, it's almost $100 every week. And he's begging for money to start his own business. I said, you need to start from you. Sacrifice that meal on Saturdays and Fridays. Sacrifice the meal. Cook in your house. Now, keep the money that you use at the restaurant to start your own business. Let me know how much you have saved. Then we can now discuss on how much we can now collaborate to promote your business. So there must be self-sacrifice before we start thinking about others. Most people in Africans, they don't have self-sacrifice. They don't sacrifice anything. Nobody wants to sacrifice anything. Just me. That mindset of me is our biggest problem as a continent. When you don't sacrifice anything, how do you are not complaining about others? You are not going to others. Okay, you people should. And this is the game that politicians play. They understand the game, just like you said. So they know the buttons. They know that during the election, I give you some food, I give you 5,000, 10,000, then you vote for me. Then I leave you for 4 years. Then I come back again after 4 years. Oh my God. God will deliver us. In fact, God has delivered us. Yeah, so we need to deliver ourselves.
That's it. That's it.
God has delivered us. We need to deliver ourselves. And the last thing I want to quickly say, maybe before I just let you say something so that we can plan maybe to wrap up round up this live broadcast. You mentioned something about experience. I was listening to the president of Uganda yesterday, talking about experience, talking about there is a need for experience. Okay, I agree. There is a need for experience. However, I'm a believer. I went to the Bible. I went to check experience between Saul and David. David did not have experience on how to kill a giant like Goliath. He didn't have the experience on how to do that. No. All he had something that was more powerful than experience. Saul had experience because he already fought many battles. He won many battles, more than David. So the experience was there. So he came up, he said, hey, you know what? This is what you should use to fight people like this. So, okay, take this. You need to take this armor. He wanted to give him what to use. But this guy had conviction. He had belief that was stronger than his experience. He had a vision that was stronger than his experience. He now checked back what he had done before. The same God that helped me to kill the bear, to kill the lion, will help me to bring down the head of this guy as well. He looked back on what he has done. So he looked back at his strategies that he used to achieve that kind of result. And he believed and relied on those strategies. That's exactly what I'm saying. That we need more leaders in politics, not politicians in leaders. That we have powerful business leaders, people who have built businesses, people who have have record. They have built businesses from the scratch. They are visionaries. These are the kind of people we need in politics. People who can build things. People who can start from the scratch. People who don't care to dismantle everything and rebuild. These are the people we need in leadership. We need leaders. We need people who can check that we can check their track record. People who can stand up and say, yes, what I've done before, I want to reproduce it nationally. Not I have experience. Experience of what? Of looting. Experience of corruption. What kind of experience do you want to transfer? They already transferred that experience to that student that you said you met in Nigeria. that said these people don't know how to loot. When
Right.
we get there, they will know the 21st century looting.
Yes. It's,
That,
it's,
that
it's,
one,
it's
that one,
crazy.
that one is already getting mentorship from one of them. Hmm? That's exactly what we don't want. That's exactly what we don't want. We want to change mindset, change paradigm shift, and people should have paradigm shift and continue to reorientate people. And that's what we need in our world today. That's okay what with experience, but we need fresh minds because we cannot use the same mindset that create the problem to solve the problem.
That's very, very
Mm,
insightful. I
mm,
I just want to say this is in as
mm,
much as we are looking at the leaders, we
mm.
on our part we have to do our own little way, no matter how little it is.
Yeah.
Africa is our home. Africa is our continent. Nobody will fix Africa for us except we fix it ourselves. That's why I said again the word of the the current South African president Ramaphosa. He says nobody will solve African problems more than Africa himself. So in your own little way, and I must applaud you for what you're doing. But for those who are watching and listening to us all over the world, what I'm saying to you is Africa is your home. Do your part. Do not wait for the government to fix the problem. Do the little you
Mhm.
can. Yes, it's frustrating. They're not providing the enabling opportunities, environment for you to thrive. But like Wale has said, if you're not part of if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So if you know you can add to the solution, please do not add to the problem. Please let
Hmm,
us put our hands together to see
hmm,
how we can make Africa great again.
hmm.
That's my awesome submission.
Yeah, wow, wow, wow. Thank you very much. I'm going to end my own contributions today with a quote said by Tony Elumelu.
Right.
He said something I love so much about Africa. He said, "Your idea can transform Africa." That let's stop talking about the ideas. Let's start doing something about the ideas. So it is time for us to start to step out and stop and just stop talking. Like, look at what my great friend Henry said. He said he's already doing something, helping a lot of youths, to open their eyes. We are also doing something, working with different institutions. That's what we are doing now. We just started that movement, and it's going to be a huge movement. We're going to make sure that this comes out in the newspaper. Once the pandemic things gets better, we're going to make it a bigger movement. We are doing our part. We're contributing to different communities, helping people. So, what are you doing where you are? What are you doing? Let's stop complaining. Let's start doing something. All of us, we have great ideas. Like I said, if you give 100 Africans, paper right now and give them questions on leadership, almost everyone will score 100%
That's
because we
true.
we know the problem. And we talk about the solutions everywhere. Everywhere you see 2, 3 Africans together, they will give you 10,000 solutions to the problems. So let's step out, let's do something, let's execute. That's what leaders do. That's the only game leaders play. They execute. They might fail. That's okay. They learn from their failures and they keep moving. They fail forward. So let's keep doing it. Even if you make that mistake. That's okay. You've learned from it and you move on. Then you become a better person. You become a better mentor to others that will make the same mistake that you have made. So let's keep doing it. Let's take calculated risk. Let's step out. Let's do it. Africa is ours. And no one will change Africa for us. No one will change your country for us. We are responsible for this transformation. And I want to say, God bless you, everyone who has been here with us. Some were here, some left, and some people are still going to watch this video after this live broadcast. And I want to say, God bless you, everyone. Oh, my friend, I really appreciate it. I'm enjoying myself here as if I shouldn't leave.
Right. That's great. We'll still have more time to come back again and then to add more
Yeah.
flesh to this ongoing conversation. Yeah, we'll still have
Yeah.
more time to make it more dynamic and more engaging and more. It's not the end of the day.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
this is our first section, and we're going to be announcing other, live broadcast that we're going to be having here. And of course, more contributors will also be joining us. So thank you very much, Henry Ukazu. I really appreciate you. And thanks everyone who is there. I would really appreciate you for being there, and God bless you. We wish you a wonderful evening or wherever you are all around the world. Wonderful afternoon. Thanks, everyone. And bye for now.